Then you're going to go ahead and flush out the transmission system. Then you can check it to see if it actually works once you've replaced your radiator or you've bypassed your cooler. You can bypass your cooler temporarily and run your vehicle without the transmission cooler. It's not going to hurt it to run it for short distances. It's mostly long hauls, just to see if this process works. And then if you need to go to the third process, which is the most time taking process, which is removing the valve body, it probably doesn't really take a lot of time to remove it, repair it, and put it back together. It was more that I was super critical. It's not something that I normally do. Generally, the transmission flush will work. In this situation, we used a Max Life we bought at Walmart because we needed gallons and gallons of this stuff. This vehicle requires Nissan S, and the reason it requires Nissan S is because they have friction modifiers and so forth and so on. But my thinking throughout the video was, it's already broken. Me spending an extra $200 on Nissan S is probably not going to help this transmission, especially if at the end I had to replace it. During the video, I was not sure if this was going to actually work, but I can literally say I was jumping up and down with joy because I'd never done this, and this actually worked. And I just did it off of my mechanical ability. Really didn't have a whole lot of help from the interwebs, but nobody talks about actually trying to repair something. And if you've watched my videos for a while, you know that I like to repair stuff opposed to replacing it. I don't know if that's because I'm cheap or because I'm poor. Probably most to do because I'm poor. So, but I was willing to invest $200, $250 into doing this. So I did this for you guys and I made this video. Please watch the whole thing. There is so much good information in here. I can't say enough how happy I am with the outcome. Remember, you can't break what's already broken, and can't never got anything done. So you might as well try. If I can do it, you can do it too. God bless you guys. Have a great day. When you get done, if you want to take the Max Life out and you want to put Nissan S in there, that's what you do if it fixes your problem. Obviously, I'm not going to show you that in the video, but I'm going to show you how to dismantle it, do the flush, dismantle the valve body, go over some things that I found while I was dismantling it. It's going to take a long time, just like the beginning of this video. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I know it's a little bit boring at times, but watch the whole thing. Subscribe, share. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the skid plate underneath here, 10mm bolts. Drop her out of there. So we got a bolt up here, and this is towards the driver's side, and then we got a bolt back there, and then we had 2 to 3 bolts along the back edge here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the 2 transmission lines that are on the bottom of here, and that'll allow us to flush it out. So we've removed the passenger side lower the lower hose off of there, and we're going to see if it blows out here or if it blows out here. We're just going to fire it over for a second. You won't have to do this in your driveway because I've already made a mess in my shop.
That's a fact.
All right, go ahead.
1, 2, 3.
That is the return. And you can see how brown and just nasty that fluid is. And then we're sucking it out of our bucket, and we're going to wait for that to clear up. Pump's working good, so that tells us a lot. We're just going to wait for it to change colors and hopefully be a different color, or it's not sucking it through the bucket, which is a possibility. So we thought we were going to remove both lines and pump it into from the bucket up into the system, but it's not going to work that way. So we're going to have to fill it through the top and drain it through the bottom. So we've got a bucket set up underneath there. We've got the driver's side hose off of there, and as we run it, we're going to run transmission fluid in through the top and out through the bottom. So we're going to take our bucket that's full of good transmission fluid, and we're going to run it in there into the top of there and just let it run through, and then we'll put our line back on, and that will have flushed our system. Okay, we poured most of our bucket in there, and right now you can see it coming out of there, and you're going to see it start to get red and get a lot cleaner and clearer looking. So we're pretty much going to run all of that transmission fluid through it to get it flushed out, and then we'll put the line back on and we'll put brand new transmission fluid in it to fill it up to the proper level. And then we'll take it for a drive and see if we fix the problem. Now our fluid, and I don't know if you can tell, but our fluid is coming out nice and red and real solid, so we're good. We're going to shut off the vehicle and go from there. So on second thought, instead of replacing the transmission cooler, because it has a cooler up in front of the radiator, which I thought was an oil cooler, which it wasn't. It has that transmission cooler up in front of the radiator, and it also has a cooler down in here, down in the bottom of the radiator. I'm going to do away with the bottom cooler and maybe later on add an aftermarket cooler to it. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to take both hoses off the bottom of the radiator here, and I'm going to connect them together with an aluminum line, making sure that they don't kink or anything like that. And then I want to run the vehicle and see if my flush did any good. If my flush didn't do any good, I'm going to add the radiator cooler, change the fluid and the filter in there, remove the valve body, clean the valve body, put it back together, and then I should be good to go. Is my beautiful 2005 Nissan Pathfinder. Now you'll notice that right up underneath here I have undone the bottom radiator hoses, and these are the transmission lines. These are the cooling lines. What they do is they come from the transmission and they go up into the bottom of the radiator. It's part of the transmission cooling system. There's actually two separate cooling systems for your transmission on a Nissan Pathfinder. The first, unfortunately, is the bottom portion of the radiator, which you really technically don't need. They engineered this to go through the radiator, I'm presuming because they had engineered these radiators to go on there, and then later on they started adding, and I don't know if we'll be able to see it, we'll show you here in a bit, but they started adding a transmission cooler, which is up underneath here in the radiator section, and I think I'm pointing to it right there. Well, the problem is that the bottoms of these radiators, they start leaking coolant inside there, which then coolant gets inside your transmission fluid and then washes out your transmission fluid, washing out your disc, so forth and so on. It doesn't generally cause so much of a great problem inside the transmission if you can get all the water out, but what it does is it hurts the circuitry inside the transmission, and I'm going to show you and explain it to you. So inside your transmission, there's up above your valve body, which is where there's like these Corsi veins, and they shoot fluid into different spots depending on where the shifting of the transmission is, stuff like that. If you've ever taken off your transmission cover and you pulled your oil filter out, you may have seen these little vein looking things that are all in there. Well, they're controlled by a solenoid pack on most Japanese automobiles like this, and German automobiles as well. This is actually a solenoid pack controller out of a Mercedes. In this particular situation, as we could tell from previously in the video, that radiator looks fairly new, which it is, because in Nissan Pathfinders it's very, very common for their cores to break, and they start leaking transmission or coolant into the transmission fluid. Then that gets inside there and gets inside all these little veins that control your solenoid shift packs and makes them shift hard. Now in this situation in my Nissan's shifting, but it's shifting very hard. So what has happened is the water is trapped up underneath here, and it's going on top of these. These are actually, sorry about that. I had a really good example of this in mind. So this is the positive and negative feed to your shift solenoids. With that water there, it's actually conducting electricity between the two parts that it's not supposed to. So then it causes your shift solenoids to work erratically. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the bottom pan off, and we've already removed a bunch of the bolts, and we've already flushed this transmission out as well, even though I realized later on that I didn't need to, but I still did it anyways, and I wanted to make sure it was done right. So we've taken a bunch of 10mm bolts out at the bottom here, and we've got a few left, and we're going to drop the rest of the transmission fluid out of it, drop the filter out of it, and we're going to pull the valve body out of it, and we're going to try to clean that and hopefully rectify this. What this is going to do is, this is something that we can do that's not going to cost us $2,000 like a transmission. Now, it may not fix it either, but you can't break what's already broken, so we might as well just go ahead and try to fix it. So what we're going to do is remove the remainder of the bolts, remove the remainder of the transmission fluid, remove the filter, and we're going to show you how to take the valve body out, and I'm going to explain to you what bolts to take out. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove that little connector pin that holds that on there, right there, and we're going to use a pick tool, and we'll pop that out of the way. And then when we take our valve body out, it will allow the valve body to drop down. So we also have to unplug the wiring connector that connects the valve body to the transmission as well. So hopefully yours is positioned in the same way mine was. I was able to reach my hand up here, and as I pushed on the tab, I pushed down on the connector and then pulled up at the same time. It's kind of crazy, but you know, and that's how I got my connector off. And now with my clip out, now I just need to unhook the electrical connections underneath here. Pay attention to where my valve body linkage strikes with my shifting linkage, and pull my wiring harness off there, and I'll show you that here in a moment. Okay, there's 3 different size bolts in here, but they're all 10mm heads. But this one particular bolt on your passenger side is your alignment bolt. This is a very important bolt. This bolt needs to go back in this exact location. Then there's basically 3 bolts on each side that hold this thing in. And I'm going to show you them when I pull them out. I'm going to show you which ones to pull out. It's going to be this one. Let's see. I think it's this one, this one, this one. I'm not sure, but I'm going to pull them out, and then I'll show you on the valve body which ones I pulled out. But there's only 12 bolts in total that you need to remove. Almost forgot. We need to pull our electrical connectors out, and then pull them out of the clips as well. We got one more right there, and that clip is in the back. That little clip right there, you're going to push that in. You can use a pick tool, and then we'll remove them out of the looms. Add the little securing fasteners. So how them are affixed, they're just little metal tabs. You just bend them down a little bit. Don't bend them too much, you don't want to break them off. And when you go to stick this bolt back in, which is the one, do not crush the wires with the bolt. So now I have all my bolts out, and I'm going to show you. I've got this one loose. This is your locating bolt. That's the one that's different besides the other 2. And as you can see, I've got 1, 2. Really took that bolt out and I didn't need to. But I took that bolt out, but I didn't need to. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Should have a total of 13 bolts, even though I was only supposed to take out 12. Up there you can't see. 1, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then my 1 bolt is still left in there, which is 13, which is my alignment bolt. That's the particular bolt. Now if you got this correct and you got your bolts out correctly, this should be a little bit springy, which it is. So now we're going to wait for the fluid to drain out, and we're going to pull that last bolt. So now we have our valve body out. We're going to disassemble it, and we're going to clean it properly and see if I'm going to try to remember how to check the solenoids. If not, I'm going to look that up and check the solenoids. And hopefully when we clean it, we get all the water and debris out of here, it'll work when we put it back together. Okay, so now we got our valve body laid out. We're going to start taking our 5mm Allens out, and then we have 1 10mm there, and we're going to set them out on our cloth exactly where we took them out, and potentially put them back in the metal bracket so we know where they go, because some of them may have different depths. Okay, so a couple things I want to point out. In order to get the valve body solenoid controller out, you have to take the solenoids off, and no matter how gentle I was with these things, these solenoids broke off. You can see how they're supposed to be. So to eBay it is, but it was exactly as I suspected. You see that contamination right there? That's material from your transmission, and that was what was shorting out the solenoid board, was that material on there. And that's exactly what we wanted to clean, and that's exactly what we want to take off, and how these just slid off of here like this. And then there might be, oh yeah, see, there's transmission material inside that. I don't know how well you can see it, but it shouldn't be like that. And that's our water contamination. Quite certain if I could have got the solenoids off correctly, I probably could have fixed this with no cost, you know, ending up cleaning this up. But I'm going to take the back off of here, and how I got the solenoids out was I took these pliers after I took the bolt out, and I just loosened them up a little bit. But you can see where I'd broken them off. I mean, I don't know, I'm going to try to get that out of there and replace them. Maybe I can get them from the local Yoko parts store, but I hope so. So at this point I wanted to add in a couple still shots so you have some information to go off of for your solenoids and etc. So that's what this is. So we got our solenoids a couple days later, and I've went ahead and I've taken the back off of this. These little things have silicone right here. What they're trying to do is prevent any transmission fluid getting inside here. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean up all of our contacts and take all that crappy stuff off and look for any broken connector. You know, we're going to make sure all these pathways are clear and there's not a bunch of contaminants inside there like there is there. They try to make this where it's watertight, so when we go over it, we're going to go ahead and we're going to silicone everything, and then we'll silicone this top basically back on here. We're trying to make it as watertight as possible. I don't think the intention is from the manufacturer for it to be 100% watertight, but we're also going to remove all this silicone as well, and we're going to re-silicone all of this. And hopefully when I put this thing back together it works. I'm going to talk about the solenoids here in a couple moments. So now when you get this all cleaned up and you want to dry it out very well, we're going to go ahead and place Permatex all over these connectors and just cover them. We're not going to cover up these. These are where your fluid flows through there. By the way, all the brown stuff that you see all over here, that's just an epoxy coating from the factory, so that's not a big deal that stuff's on there. You don't have to clean it off because these metal strips just conduct electricity through them. And if you see anything, I was kind of questionable about this area right here. So you can basically see how the wire comes in, and you can see how it runs down if you look real close at it. And I did a continuity test from this part to this part right here just to make sure I didn't have any like rust issues underneath this plate because of that little bit of rusty looking area right there, but it was conductive, so that made it a little bit easier. So there. and put the caps on. Hey, I want you guys to know that I'm sorry that this is a long video, but remember, we're trying to fix something that's already broken at the most inexpensive way possible, and I'm showing you the outside edges because I want you to know that you need to look at this and make sure the cap is pushed on correctly. And it's also helping me look at it at the same time. If you've watched a lot of my videos, you guys know that I'm pretty close to blind, so I got to be a little bit more exacting about the things that I do, but looks like it's all put back together. I did put these covers on prior to pushing that on there, and I'm not too much worried about the you know, the silicone that's sticking out. I'm going to take that out of there here in a second. But now we can assemble it back to our valve body and put on our solenoids. So now I've got it all assembled. I'm going to give you a nice little overview of this thing, just in case, I guess, so you know where your bolts go, because I had to do a lot of looking back and forth at pictures to remember all of them. But I also wanted to point out that my original, I don't remember what this one's called, but my original one was a Bosch, and this is the Mitsubishi version of that solenoid, and that appears to be okay from the research that I did. So I'm not really concerned about that. I don't remember which solenoid that's what that goes to, but I'll supplement the picture and put it in there so you have it. And I also noticed that, like, some of these solenoids I got, these are reconditioned. I don't know what 25 is, but maybe that's 08. I don't know. But they have the dates stamped in the top of them, and they're okay. And then the other thing, the part that I wanted to make this segment was when I was putting in these ones, you can, I don't know if you can see it down there, but if you look on your solenoids, there's actually little tabs that these rest on, so them are installed correctly. And then when I was installing them, I put my finger here and then my other arm right back there, and I was kind of wiggling these and pushing them down so they would go in there correctly. Hopefully that's helpful. Let's take a look at the bottom, because I have all the bolts in before I'm going to reassemble it into the mechanism there, and I have everything tightened down. With the bolt lengths, I had to go through a couple times because there's some that won't fit. I don't want to bottom them out, you know, bottom them out inside their fittings. There's not supposed to be a bolt in there. That's your alignment bolt. But I just wanted to show you how this was put together, and it looks like it's put together properly. Sorry for the length on the video, but if you're one of the people just looking for this particular spot, this is going to be really helpful for you. So I know this video's a little bit over 30 minutes long, but hopefully I saved you about $3,000 and you didn't take the advice to get your transmission totally rebuilt if you didn't need it. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you click the notification, share my videos, send me your nice comments. Sorry about all the nammering, but you got to understand, when we're making these videos, we don't know quite how they're going to turn out, and we don't know if there's going to be fruitfulness from it. So we can't take away from our daily lives, you know, and make these long videos, but if they're not going to be useful, because I trash a lot of videos because the information is incorrect or I was mistaken. But if you guys want to reach out to me, hit me up on Clay's AC and Auto Repair. Remember, you can't break what's already broken, so you might as well try to fix it. And if any other man can do it, you can do it too. Never got anything done. Don't be the next to them, be the first to you. God bless. Have a great day.